In this video, we will explore the Book of Revelation through the interpretive lens of Manly P. Hall, drawing from his work The Secret Teachings of All Ages. A few months ago, I examined the Book of Revelation in detail from a Christian perspective, specifically through revelation of Jesus Christ by Dr. Ranko Stefanovic, who is regarded as an expert on the subject. However, that interpretation is only one among many, and even within Christianity there are significant differences in how the text is understood. Different denominations interpret the same symbols in different ways, and even within the same tradition, individuals often disagree on their meanings. Some may feel that this makes interpretation meaningless, that if everyone can assign their own meaning, then nothing is objectively true. But I see this diversity as precisely what gives it significance. This is not the proof that it is meaningless. This is the proof that those symbols contain so much meaning that it is almost impossible to reach final conclusions on how to interpret them. This is not a flaw. This is the nature of language, symbolism, and their relationship to reality itself. Hall, for example, approaches these symbols through older traditions connected to early Christianity, a period when Christian ideas were still developing and interacting with pagan philosophical systems. In those early centuries, Christianity existed in a far more diverse and fluid form, with many sects holding different beliefs and symbolic frameworks, before later becoming more centralized. I am personally drawn to various interpretations of the same texts because I believe that this is exactly where the true nature of symbols, their place in reality, and their connection to truth is revealed. Every text, every symbol, and every word can be connected to multiple layers of meaning, each linked by human understanding to reality in different ways. This is what symbols are. They are a way through which human understanding is connected to reality through meaning. Human understanding draws patterns of meaning from the reality of truth and imposes this meaning upon the symbols, through which we create mental structures or maps that allow us to operate in the realm of truth. In this sense, all systems of thought, or more precisely, everything that is happening in the realm of language, or the realm of symbols, meaning all writing, texts, words, containing all philosophy, science, mythology, fiction, and literature, can be seen as symbolic structures built from human attempts to interpret truth. Mythology and science, religion and philosophy, are all different expressions of the same underlying process of construction of the meaning structures. Truth is pure meaning, and reality itself is fundamentally meaningful, because reality is true. Symbols are the way human consciousness engages with that meaning. Because human understanding is part of reality, it participates in this meaningful reality by shaping symbolic structures that reflect it. In this way, different traditions can be seen as different constructions, built from the same raw material of truth, assembled through human understanding into systems of symbols that represent or are connected to certain patterns of meaning in the realm of truth. The truth contains all meaning at once. This is why on this channel, I explore different symbolic frameworks created by different cultures and schools of thought across history. Even when I see some interpretations as more coherent or profound than others, I do not dismiss the rest, because each contains its own pattern of meaning drawn from reality. Ultimately, everything that exists participates in truth, because reality itself is truth. With that in mind, let's continue exploring this topic. The existence of the Temple of Diana at Ephesus signified that the city was dedicated to the mystery religion, for the 7 wonders of the ancient world were constructed to mark centers in which hidden knowledge was preserved. Concerning Ephesus, it was described as a focal point of universal secret teachings, a remarkable intellectual center from which, expressed in refined Greek language, emerged the distilled essence of Buddhist, Zoroastrian, and Chaldean philosophy. Artemis stood as a vast and tangible symbol of philosophical and pantheistic ideas, the great nurturing mother, both masculine and feminine in nature, and protector of the sacred writings associated with Ephesus. Though she was said to have been overcome by Paul, and although early converts zealously claimed to have destroyed all books of curious or magical practices, enough of these works remained to be studied after their initial fervor diminished. As a major center of ancient learning outside the Christian tradition, Ephesus became the setting for numerous early Christian traditions. It was claimed by some that it served as the final residence of the Virgin Mary, and also that it contained the tomb of John the Divine. According to legend, John did not die in the ordinary sense, but instead chose his burial chamber, entered it while still alive, sealed it behind him, and disappeared from human sight. A long-standing belief in Ephesus held that he would remain resting in his tomb until the return of the Saviour, and that when he shifted upon his resting place, the earth above would move as though stirred by his presence. The Apocalypse, commonly attributed to John the Divine, has been subjected to more scrutiny than any other book included in the New Testament. It remains one of the most significant yet least understood writings within Gnostic Christianity. Although an early authority affirmed that it was written by one of Christ's apostles, doubts about its authorship appeared as early as the 2nd century. By the 3rd century, these disputes intensified, with notable critics arguing that both the Apocalypse and the Gospel attributed to John were actually the work of another individual who used the apostle's name to lend authority to his own teachings. Later scholars continued to question its origin, and during the Reformation such criticisms were revived once more. The earlier belief that the book recorded a literal mystical experience during exile on an island has largely been set aside by more critical thinkers, who have instead proposed alternative explanations for its symbolism and purpose. One interpretation suggests that the Apocalypse may in fact be a work rooted in pagan tradition, possibly belonging to the sacred literature of ancient mystery schools. If so, its author would have been an initiate bound to communicate profound truths through symbolic language. A second theory proposes that the text was created to harmonize apparent differences between early Christian teachings and older religious philosophies. As early Christians attempted to transform pagan traditions, those initiated in older systems responded by influencing the new faith. While the Christians did not succeed in fully reshaping paganism, the reverse influence proved more enduring. As pagan traditions declined, their initiates adopted the framework of early Christianity, embedding their timeless teachings within its symbols. The Apocalypse reveals this blending of traditions and serves as evidence of such influence within early Christian thought. A third view holds that the book was composed by certain members of a religious group with the intention of undermining Christian teachings through satire. By presenting Christian ideas as merely a repetition of older doctrines and by reinterpreting its symbols in a critical manner, they sought to diminish its authority. For instance, symbolic elements within the text could be read as negative reflections of Christian themes. However, although this explanation has attracted some support, the depth and complexity of the work make this interpretation the least convincing. For those capable of understanding its symbolic language, the origin and intent of the text become evident without the need for further proof. Ultimately, true philosophy cannot be confined to any single doctrine or system, as it exists beyond all artificial boundaries of thought. For this reason, the debate over whether the Apocalypse is of pagan or Christian origin is of limited importance. Its true significance lies in its comprehensive expression of universal mystery teachings. It has even been suggested that the text can be understood in multiple, entirely different ways. Without familiarity with ancient philosophical traditions, modern interpreters struggle to grasp its full meaning, often finding it obscure and difficult to comprehend. Within the limits of a brief account, only a few key aspects of this visionary work can be outlined, and a deeper understanding is aided by studying the various ancient mystery traditions that illuminate its symbolism. In the opening portion of the Apocalypse, John presents the Alpha and Omega standing at the center of the 7 golden candlesticks. Encircled by radiant planetary powers, this exalted figure symbolizes, in a single profound image, the full course of human evolution, past, present, and future. It has been explained that the earliest phases of human development occurred when the Earth itself existed in a fiery state, and that the first forms of humanity emerged from this element of fire. At the conclusion of earthly existence, humanity is destined to express its inner nature outwardly through that same fiery principle, now consciously directed. This continuous unfolding, from origin to completion, is revealed to the visionary who perceives the archetype of evolving humanity on a higher plane. The beginning appears in the fiery feet, the culmination in the radiant countenance, and the ultimate attainment, the complete power of the creative word, is symbolized by the fiery force issuing from the mouth. Interpretations have also connected the figure of the Alpha and Omega to the 7 sacred planets known to the ancients. This composite being bears attributes drawn from each: the white hair associated with time, the penetrating vision of divine authority, the sword of strength, the shining face of the sun, and the garments of beauty and harmony. The feet, linked with a sacred metal, signify swiftness and mediation, while the voice, compared to the sound of many waters, reflects the influence of the lunar power governing cycles and change. Thus, the figure unites within itself the qualities of all planetary forces. The 7 stars held in the right hand represent the rulers or governors of the world, while the flaming sword issuing from the mouth signifies the creative command, the word of power through which illusion is dispelled. This majestic form also reflects the initiatory figure of the ancient mysteries, adorned with symbolic emblems of divine authority. Attended by 7 bearers of light, this central being governs the 7 sacred schools through which wisdom is transmitted. Having passed from darkness into illumination, this exalted presence declares mastery over life and death, holding the keys to both realms. In the following sections, John conveys messages to the 7 churches of Asia, delivering the instructions received from the Alpha and Omega. These churches may be understood as stages of ascent, comparable to the steps of an initiatory ladder. In a state of spiritual vision, John is described as rising through the spheres of the 7 planets until reaching the highest boundary of the heavens. It is said that the soul of the visionary, in an exalted state, passes swiftly through the 7 planetary spheres, beginning with the sphere of the moon and ascending to that of Saturn. This journey symbolically extends from the gate associated with human birth to that associated with divine realization. Beyond these spheres, a higher portal opens within the celestial realm, described as the firmament or crystalline heaven, encompassing the zodiac within which the planetary powers revolve. When interpreted through Eastern metaphysical systems, the 7 churches correspond to the energy centers aligned along the human spine. The heavenly gateway is identified with the highest point at the crown of the head, through which the ascending spiritual force achieves liberation. The lowest center aligns with the first of the churches, while the remaining centers correspond in ascending order according to the sequence given in the vision. Additional interpretations relate the 7 churches to successive divisions of humanity, each representing a stage in cultural and spiritual development. Others associate them with the fundamental vowel sounds, with the Alpha and Omega marking the beginning and end. There has been disagreement regarding the proper arrangement of the planetary correspondences, though a consistent view places the sequence in ascending order from the Moon to Saturn, reflecting the traditional cosmological structure. From the sphere of Saturn, the soul proceeds naturally through the final gateway into the highest realm of existence. In the 4th and 5th chapters, John presents a vision of the divine throne upon which sits the Eternal One, described as existing in the past, present, and future. Surrounding this throne are 24 lesser seats occupied by 24 elders, clothed in white and crowned with gold. From the throne issue lightnings, thunderings, and voices, and before it burn 7 lamps of fire, understood to be the 7 spirits of God. In the right hand of the one upon the throne is a book sealed with 7 seals, which no being in heaven or earth is found worthy to open. Then appears a lamb, associated with Aries, the foremost sign of the zodiac, which has been slain and bears 7 horns, representing rays, and 7 eyes, symbolizing lights. This lamb takes the sealed book, and immediately the 4 living creatures and the assembled elders bow in reverence before both the throne and the Lamb. In the earliest centuries of the Christian tradition, the Lamb was widely accepted as the symbol of Christ. Only later was this image replaced by the figure of the crucified man. The choice of the Lamb carries deeper meaning, as it reflects connections to older traditions in which the first sign of the zodiac was represented in this way. Because the lamb served as a sacrificial offering in ancient rites, early mystical interpretations regarded it as an appropriate emblem for one viewed as a universal offering. Among various ancient cultures, including the Greeks and Egyptians, the ram or lamb held a place of reverence, often symbolized by the presence of horns upon divine figures. Even in northern traditions, divine attributes were linked to the ram through symbolic implements. The preference for the lamb rather than the ram emphasizes qualities of innocence and gentleness. Since the Creator was associated with the sign of Aries, the sun could be understood as its lesser or more refined expression. Symbolic garments made from lambskin, worn in certain initiatory traditions, represent the purification of creative forces, a necessary condition for spiritual advancement. Within this allegorical framework, the lamb signifies the individual who has undergone purification, with its 7 horns representing the divisions of enlightened reason and its 7 eyes corresponding to perfected centers of perception. The chapters that follow describe the opening of the 7 seals carried by the Lamb. With the breaking of the first seal, a rider appears upon a white horse, crowned and bearing a bow. The second seal reveals a rider upon a red horse, wielding a great sword. The third brings forth a rider upon a black horse, holding scales for weighing. The fourth introduces a pale horse ridden by death, followed by the realm of the dead. These 4 horsemen are often understood as representing the principal stages of human existence. The white horse signifies birth and the beginning of life's conquest. The red horse reflects the intensity and conflict of youth. The black horse represents maturity, in which judgment and balance prevail, and the pale horse signifies death, which claims its portion of the world. In another interpretation, these figures correspond to the 4 great ages or cycles of existence described in Eastern philosophy, each governing creation for a determined period. Further symbolic analysis associates the 4 horses with the 4 fundamental elements of nature. Each horse is linked to a ruling power presiding over its respective element. The first, representing the fiery essence, occupies the highest position and is described as swift, radiant, and encompassing all others within its vast motion. The second, associated with air, moves within a lesser sphere and displays contrasting qualities of light and darkness. The third, corresponding to water, moves more slowly and within a narrower range. The fourth, representing earth, is depicted as stable and unmoving. Though differing in nature, these elemental forces exist in harmony, reflecting the principle that the world is sustained through balance among its parts. Yet, disturbances may arise. The fiery force may overpower the solidity of earth, while the influence of water may overflow and overwhelm stability, giving rise to great floods. Ultimately, it is foretold that the fiery element will absorb and transform the others, purifying them through its essence. From this process of renewal emerges a regenerated order, described as a new heaven and a new earth. When the 5th seal was opened, John beheld the souls of those who had given their lives for the word of God. With the breaking of the 6th seal, a great upheaval followed. The earth trembled, the sun was darkened, and the moon took on the appearance of blood. Then appeared the angels of the winds, along with another angel, who placed a seal upon the foreheads of 144,000 among the children of Israel, marking them for preservation during the time of tribulation. According to the numerical philosophy of the Pythagoreans, this number resolves to 9, a symbol associated with humanity and initiation. One who passes through the 9 degrees of the mysteries receives the sign of the cross, representing regeneration and release from the limitations of the lower nature. The addition of the ciphers to the original sacred value signifies the elevation of this mystery to a higher spiritual sphere. At the opening of the 7th seal, there was silence for a brief interval. Then 7 angels appeared, each bearing a trumpet. As these trumpets sounded, expressing the sacred name of the Logos, catastrophic events unfolded. A star named Wormwood fell from heaven, symbolizing the corruption of ancient wisdom when entrusted to those who misused it, turning divine knowledge into a force of destruction. Another star descended, representing the false light of human reason, distinct from the divine insight of the initiate. This false light was given the key to the abyss, opening it and releasing destructive influences into the world. A mighty angel then appeared, clothed in a cloud, with a face radiant like the sun and limbs like pillars of fire, standing with one foot upon the sea and the other upon the land. This figure presented John with a small book and instructed him to eat it. The book signifies the secret doctrine, the nourishment of the spirit, and by partaking of it, the seer absorbed divine wisdom, satisfying the longing of his soul. Here on this drawing the downfall of Babylon is depicted, along with an angel casting a great stone into the sea as a sign of its complete destruction. A rider known as Faithful and True casts the beast into the abyss, while another angel, holding a key and a chain, binds the adversary for a long period. Above, a figure like the Son of Man appears with a sickle, gathering the harvest of the world. At the center stands the holy city, the New Jerusalem, with its 12 gates and the Mount of the Lamb rising within it. From the throne flows a river of living water, representing spiritual truth, which grants immortality to those who partake of it. From a high place, John observes this radiant city, the ideal form of a perfected civilization yet to be realized. Above it shines the throne of the Eternal, illuminating the realm of the Spirit. Beyond ordinary perception exists a growing assembly of spiritually awakened individuals who, though appearing as ordinary people, belong to a higher order. Through their persistent efforts, the divine kingdom is gradually established upon earth. These enlightened souls are portrayed as the builders of the New Jerusalem, their lives forming its living structure. Guided by truth, they labor to restore harmony, bringing about a renewal in which the forces of darkness are overcome. In this vision, the aim is not to escape the world, but to transform it, establishing a higher order within earthly existence. The 12th chapter introduces another powerful image, a woman clothed with the sun, with a moon beneath her feet and a crown of 12 stars upon her head. This figure is associated with the constellation of Virgo, and also with the archetypal mother figure known from ancient traditions, who, about to give birth to a divine child, is threatened by a force seeking to destroy it. The conflict in the heavens symbolizes both cosmic upheaval and the fall of opposing powers. The woman may also be understood as representing the secret doctrine itself, while her child signifies the initiate born from the hidden teachings of the mysteries. The opposing force, depicted as a great dragon, attempts to dominate humanity by extinguishing the source of spiritual illumination. Yet the woman is given wings and escapes into a place of refuge. The dragon attempts to overwhelm her with a flood, symbolizing false teachings, but this effort fails as those distortions are ultimately absorbed and rendered powerless. In this way, the enduring wisdom of the mysteries survives despite all attempts to destroy it. The 13th chapter presents the image of a great beast rising from the sea, bearing 7 heads and 10 horns. This figure has been interpreted by some as representing the Demiurgus, or Creator, emerging from the primal ocean of chaos. Although many readers of the Apocalypse have regarded such creatures as symbols of evil, this conclusion often arises from a lack of familiarity with the older philosophical systems from which these images originate. In an astronomical sense, the beast corresponds to the constellation known as Cetus, the great sea creature. Certain ascetic traditions viewed the material universe as deceptive and binding, and thus came to regard its creator as a source of illusion. In this way, both the world and its maker, empowered by a greater cosmic force, were depicted as monstrous, seeking to consume the immortal essence within humanity. The 7 heads of this being have been associated with 7 celestial powers, while the 10 horns have been linked to primordial ancestors or to an earlier form of the zodiac composed of 10 divisions. The number of the beast, expressed as 666, reflects the use of symbolic numerical systems within early mystical traditions. Through such methods, various names were believed to correspond to this number, suggesting deeper layers of meaning. It has also been noted that certain terms associated with the lower aspect of the mind yield the same numerical value, indicating a connection between this number and the unrefined intellectual nature. In contrast, another sacred name is associated with a different numerical value considered harmonious and elevated. When the digits of the number of the beast are combined and reduced, they result in 9, a number linked to humanity in its incomplete state as well as to the process of transformation leading toward renewal. The 14th chapter opens with the Lamb standing upon Mount Zion, surrounded by 144,000 individuals bearing the divine name upon their foreheads. An angel proclaims the fall of Babylon, symbolizing the collapse of confusion and attachment to worldly concerns. Those who remain bound to material existence alone are swept away with it, while those who recognize the enduring nature of spirit transcend such destruction. In the vision, A figure resembling the Son of Man appears upon a cloud, holding a sharp sickle with which the earth is harvested. This act signifies the work of initiation, through which those who have matured spiritually are released into a higher reality. Another figure follows, also bearing a sickle, representing the force of consequence, gathering those who have lived under false understanding and casting them into a realm of purification. The chapters that follow describe 7 angels who pour out their vessels upon the earth, releasing what are called the final plagues. These forces represent the unleashing of cosmic energies that bring about transformation and dissolution. Within this narrative appears the figure known as the Harlot of Babylon, portrayed as a woman seated upon a scarlet beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. She is richly adorned and holds a golden cup filled with corruption. This image may reflect an attempt to discredit ancient forms of worship associated with the Great Mother, whose symbols were tied to the creative and generative powers of nature. Because such traditions honored the feminine principle through symbolic expression, they were often misunderstood and misrepresented by later interpretations. In many of the ancient mysteries, initiates were tested through encounters with temptation, and thus the figure of the woman may also represent the lower or animal aspect of the soul, portrayed here in symbolic form. In the 19th and 20th chapters, the preparation of the mystical sacrament known as the marriage of the Lamb is revealed. The bride represents the soul of the neophyte, which attains conscious immortality through union with its own spiritual source. The heavens open once more, and John beholds a white horse, whose rider, symbolizing the illumined mind, is called Faithful and True. From his mouth proceeds a sharp sword, and he is followed by the hosts of heaven. Upon the celestial plains takes place the great symbolic battle, the final conflict between light and darkness. The opposing forces, described in terms of ancient dualism, contend until the powers of darkness are overcome. The beast and the false prophet are cast into a lake of fire, and the adversary is bound for a long duration. Following this comes the last judgment, in which the records are opened, including the book of life. The dead are judged according to their deeds, and those not found within the book are cast into a fiery realm. For the neophyte, this great conflict signifies the ultimate struggle between the material and the spiritual aspects of existence. Through victory over the lower nature, the awakened soul achieves union with its higher self. The judgment represents the weighing of the soul, a concept derived from ancient initiatory traditions. The rising of the dead from the earth and from the sea of illusion symbolizes the completion of human regeneration, while the fire into which the unworthy are cast signifies the consuming sphere of the lower world. In the final chapters, a vision is given of a new heaven and a new earth, established after the dominion of darkness has ended. Carried in spirit to a lofty height, John beholds the New Jerusalem descending like a bride prepared for union. This holy city represents the perfected and regenerated state of existence, symbolized as a flawless geometric form in which all dimensions are equal. Its foundation is composed of 144 stones arranged in 12 rows, indicating that it reflects the structure of the greater cosmos in miniature. The 12 gates correspond to the zodiacal signs through which celestial influences enter the lower realm, while the jeweled adornments represent their associated forces. The streets, described as transparent gold, signify the paths of spiritual illumination along which the initiate advances. Within this city there is no external temple, for the divine presence itself constitutes its sanctuary, and there is no need of sun or moon, as the divine light provides all illumination. The perfected initiate is symbolically portrayed as this radiant city, which ultimately becomes united with the divine essence and absorbed into its infinite brilliance. John also beholds a river of living water flowing from the throne of the Lamb, representing the stream of life issuing from the primal source and sustaining all creation. Beside it stands the tree of life, bearing 12 kinds of fruit and offering healing through its leaves. This tree also reflects the cycle of the year, continually providing nourishment to all living beings. Finally, the declaration is made that the source of this light is both the root and the offspring of a royal lineage, and the radiant morning star. The vision concludes with a blessing of grace extended to all.